Okay, are you guys ready for this? Today, I'm going to teach you how to get mad in math. What do I mean? Mean absolute deviation, aka mad. And today's date, 3. Woo, where'd that come from? 5/21/19. Okay, so let's deal with those 3 words separately, and then we'll put them all together. So let's talk about mean. We know what that is. We've been working on that. It's just the average. Okay, what's absolute mean? Well, if you remember, we talked about absolute value earlier, and it was how far is something away from 0. So that's all it is. So it's the distance. Now, because it's measured for distance, that means we're only going to get positive answers from a key point. And in most cases, that key point is 0. Okay? So, or for us, in this particular case, it's going to be the mean. Okay? And then last, deviation. To deviate means to go away from or change, okay, or difference. So change, how far away, difference. So let's put it all together, and we get mean absolute deviation. By the way, you know it's probably going to take 2 pages. Mad. This is the average distance. So far we're talking about mean and absolute. The average distance, the data, is from the mean of the data. So we're always comparing back to the data. How far away is each number from the mean? Okay, so again, remember this, it's always positive. That's what absolute, like absolute value, always positive. Okay, so we're going to talk about how do we actually calculate MAD, and then we're going to do some practice with it. So steps to get mad. First and foremost, we start with the mean. Find the mean of the data. Again, we want to compare how everything else, how far it is from the mean. Well, we got to know what the mean is then, right? 2. We're going to subtract the mean from each number in the data form. From each number in the data. Okay. Now, because we want to get a positive answer and we want to know absolute, how far away it is, we're going to make sure that we're always taking the absolute value meaning we're going to get positive numbers only. Okay, so now, here we are. We found the mean. We subtracted every number in the data with the mean, took the absolute value, so we got something positive, and then guess what? We're not done, because we are going to find the mean again. That's why we get so mad. Find the mean of the absolute differences, so the positive differences. So again, a little brief. We're going to add up the absolute differences from step 2. And then we're going to divide by how many numbers were added. Now, just to let you know, don't think this is never going to show up again. We just were covering this in algebra class with standard deviation, and the first thing we did was calculate MAD. Okay, because it has its role to play. All right, let's go ahead and get an example done, shall we? Yeah. So directions are going to say find the mean absolute value. Deviation, sorry. Mean absolute deviation. So this one is about the speeds of the top 8 fastest birds. So I don't think an emu is going to top the list. No, they're kind of fast, to be honest with you. Miles per hour. Thinking like the sloths of the bird world. What would that be? That's a good question. Flamingos are kind of lazy. I don't really see them move a heck of a lot. So we've got, let's see. I'm going to create 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So we have 88, 95, 76, 106, 65, 68, 70, and 80. There's no rhyme or reason why this chart looks the way it does. It's just listing out numbers. In fact, we could just do even this, so we can list them out. So, step 1, let's find the mean of the data. I'm trying to get my colors here. So first, let's find the mean. So we're going to take all of these numbers, 88 and 76 and 65 and 70 and 95 and 106 and 68 and 80, and we're going to add them all up. We're going to divide by 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so I'm going to kind of add them up. I think I'm going to add them up in columns like they were originally. So 88 and 95, let's see, that's going to give me a 13, which is going to give me 183. And then let's see what we get from the next grouping. We get a 12, we get a 182. And then the next grouping, we get a 13, 12, and 1 is 133. And then we get 150. All of it divided by 8. Keep going, 2 by 2. Let's see, we get a 5, 16, a 365. We get a 3, an 8, and a 2, all over 8. One more round here. 8, 14, 5, and 1 is 6, divided by 8. Well, 8 goes into 64 8 times exactly, and into itself once. So we've got the mean. Step 2. Let's go up here, and we're going to find the differences. So we got a lot of little problems to do here. So let's do, well, in fact, I'll do them underneath here. We've got 88 minus 81. Oops, sorry, straight absolute value. That gives me 7. And then let's do 76, take away 81. Now, it's really 81 take away 76, which is going to be a difference of 5, but it'd be negative 5. So the absolute value makes it positive 5. And then let's do 65 minus 81. So again, that's really 81 take away 65, which is going to give me 16, negative 16, but the absolute value of that would be positive 16. And then let's do 70. Absolute value of 70 take 81. That would be 81 take away 70 is 11, but it's really negative 11, but the absolute value makes it positive 11. And then we've got 95 take away 81, and that's going to give me 14. And then we've got 106 take away 81. Let's see, that's going to give me a 5. That's going to give me a 25. And then we're going to have 68 take away 81. So it's really 81 take away 68. So let's see, that give me 17. No, that's not right. 13. Yep, 11 take away 8 is 3. Where was that coming from, huh? Last one, 80 take away 81 is going to give me a negative 1, but the absolute value makes it a positive 1. So, did all that, and then we're going to do, let's get mad. So mad says, let's take all of those absolute differences, 7 and 5 and 16 and 11 and 14 and 25 and 13 and 1. We're going to divide how many numbers we just added, which is 8. Okay? So let's just add them 2 by 2. So we get 12, we get 27, we get 39, and we get 14, all over 8. And let's see, we get 39 plus 53, all over 8. And that gives me a 12, and an 8, and a 9 over 8. And then we're going to divide 8 into 92. So 8 goes into 9 once, with 1 left over, bring down the 2. 8 goes into 12 once, which is going to give me a 4. Put in a decimal point, bring down a 0, and that goes in 5 times evenly. So we get a MAD of 11, oops, where's that 2.5? Okay, so how we interpret this is on average, each bird flies 11.5 miles per hour from the mean. Some fly faster, some fly slower, but on average, it's 11.5 miles per hour from the mean. Okay, let's try a different problem. This one is going to be, or just to kind of give you an idea. Let's say we have 2 sets of data, and we want to compare MAD for 2 sets of data. So to compare MAD for 2 sets of data, we have a couple things that can happen. First, the smaller MAD means that set of data, whichever has that MAD, is closer to the mean. That makes sense. So if all those differences, those positive differences from each number and the mean get added up and divided by how many numbers there were, if that number is small, that means all your numbers are pretty close to the mean. That's a good idea. Okay, well, what if, what's the larger one mean? The larger MAD means that set of data is farther away from the mean. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a moment and pop back to the one we just did. We've got a 11.5. That means our numbers aren't pretty close to each other, okay? So, and we may even have to look out for things like outliers. I don't think in this set of data there's an outlier, but I'm just looking, we've got in the high 80s, in the low 80s, in the mid and high 60s, low 70s to mid 70s. We've got mid 90s, and we have 106, kind of all over the place. Okay, I'm going to go off screen and I'm going to put up a problem. Okay, so be right back. And through the magic of time, I am back. So what I suggest is that you pause right now, copy down the information, and then rejoin me. Okay? And as you're ready, we're going to find MAD of each. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is find the mean, which is going to be the 90 plus the 95 plus the 88 plus 100 plus 98, all over 5. So this is for the comedies. Okay, and through the production of time, I'm going to add up all those numbers. Now, it's okay for you guys to use a calculator. I really don't have an issue with that on these. But again, you got to show me all the work. So if I added all those numbers, I get 471 over 5. And if I did my division, I'd get 94.2. Now, this is especially when I'd be using my calculator, because now I'm going to find my differences. I'm going to take the absolute value of 90 minus 94.2, and that's going to give me 4.2, and then we've got the absolute value of, I keep trying to do parentheses, I need to do these guys, so I have 95, take away 94.2, absolute value of that is going to be 0.8, and then I'm going to do the absolute value of 88, take away 94.2, and that's going to give me 6.2. There I go again, jeez. There we go, 6.2. Do you think I would learn? Nope. And then we have 100, absolute value of 100, take away 94.2, and that's going to give me 5.8. And last but not least is 98, take away 94.2, and that's going to give me 3.8. Okay, so now we're going to do the MAD. We're going to take all those numbers, 4.2 plus 0.8 plus 6.2 plus 5.8 plus 3.8, and divide that by 5. And again, use my calculator. I get 20.8 divided by 5, and when I do the math, I end up getting 4.16. Okay, so that's my MAD. Now let's do mad on the other side over here. In fact, we'll do some up here. So let's do mad of the dramas. So let's start with the mean. And we're going to get 115 plus 120 plus 120 plus 135 plus 144 all over 5. Through the miracle of magic here, we're going to add up and get 634 over 5. And when we divide, we get 126.8. But that's not where we end. We keep going. We're going to do the differences. So we're going to get the absolute value of 115 minus 126.8. So our answer is always going to be positive. That gives me 11.8. And then we're going to do 120, take away the 126.8. That's going to give me a difference of 6.8. We're going to do the absolute value of 120. So we got another one. Okay, and then the absolute value of 135, take away 126.8. That's going to give me 8.2. And then we've got the absolute value of 144 minus 126.8. And that's going to give me 17.2. So now we're going to get mad. So we're going to take all those absolute differences, 11.8 plus 6.8 plus 6.8 plus 8.2 plus 17.2. I'm going to divide that by 5. Put all those numbers into a calculator. We end up getting 50.8 divided by 5, which is going to equal 10.16. So what can we conclude? We can say the mean absolute deviation of the comedies 4.16, and this would be minutes, is less than the mean absolute deviation of the dramas the 10.16 minutes. This means the running time of comedies are closer together than the dramas. Or in other words, you can look at comedies are roughly about the same length of time, about 95 minutes, whereas dramas all seem to be substantially longer than that, with again about 127 minutes on average. All right, have fun with this, guys. We'll talk to you later.